You can tell our friends, and they can have my things when we're dead. But we gonna live forever. We gonna live forever.
Danny Polishuk is wearing his
Hanukkah
Israel hat.
It's a Hanukkah hat.
Hanukkah hat that has been left in the studio. He's eating nuts, man. You can never stop this guy from fucking the Nutman. But this is something that I kept meaning to mention, but I forgot. So my chick, parents are from like, you know, whatever, like mad red places.
Yeah.
And you'll appreciate this very much. So her dad, for 2 Christmases ago, and her mom gave each other presents. And the dad opened the present and the mom opened the present, and they got them each other my pillows.
What? Did they know or tell like?
No. She said she was at Christmas and her dad opens up from the mom my pillow, and then he's like, "Oh my God, open yours." And they both got each other my pillows.
And were they both like, "How did you know?"
How funny is that? I was like, you can't write. That's like something you'd put in a fucking movie.
That is so funny.
I was loving it.
Did they just watch the mainline Fox News?
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
I told you, my girl's parents.
They get mad at her because she likes Bernie and
dude,
stuff.
my girl's parents fucking, they wake up, they have a TV in the kitchen. They put on Fox News at 8 in the morning and it gets turned off at midnight.
Yeah, just fucking cruising through.
No other channels.
They, you know what was, this is one more wedding thing that I was just getting a little long before. But one thing I wanted to say it's just an interesting guy-girl thing. Is one thing that girls are so, and
why can't guys wear the dresses?
What dresses?
Is that what you're? Oh, that's not what you're gonna say. Oh, you just forget about it.
Forget it.
Yeah, it's not. It's stupid.
No, the feminine people are so afraid of controversy. It's the same reason why, you know, it always goes back to why women are a little worse at like negotiating higher raises and stuff like that, which is a positive thing. Well, I guess agreeableness is what they call it or whatever, which is why, you know, a lot of cases they're more, you know, I always say, like, if you were to take an average, just a random trip with someone you don't know, a lot of times the girl might be a more pleasant trip than the guy, because you might get some like psychopath who's just like arguing nonstop, whereas the girl will, on the most part, probably find a way you connect with a little better. Yeah. And sometimes, I don't know, depends on the
It'll be more
scenario.
yeah.
You have a better chance
It'll be
of not
less
having a
agreeable
psychopath.
until it's your girlfriend, and then all the agreeableness out the fucking window.
That's a huge part of kind of what I was even going to say is like, it's funny because that's one of the things that gets annoying sometimes. You'll be with someone, it's like so nice to everyone but you, which is not the case in my scenario, but you see those scenarios where the girl's just like so nice to everyone. Like, I wouldn't want anyone to think anything of this. So you see the way she is with her boyfriend or whatever. It's like a maniac, you know what I mean? So yeah, all that goes out the window when it's someone that they control kind of situation, right? But just the little things, probably the only little things we were fighting about was kind of this idea of like, even on the plane or whatever, I was sort of starting fights.
Yeah.
And there was a few times I was starting fights, and it's like, I guess, that's why traveling is such a mess sometimes. It's because the girl's very like, let's not get in the way. And it's like, no, I'm not waiting an extra 2 hours to not like inconvenience someone I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, you care so much about strangers. Like, this is the example I was talking about. I mean, the plane thing that I was talking about was a little bit of it, where it's kind of like, I was like, okay, well, how do we do this, blah, blah. And then eventually the girl comes down with the food and she goes, well, I'll give you the food. Fine. How about this? I'll just give you the thing. And I go, okay, what I want is this and this and this. She goes, no, that's too much. I can't give you that. And then she goes, well, I'll give you...
basically you complained so much that she agreed to give you free food?
Yeah.
That would cost money?
And then she gave me a cheese tray, and she's like, just so you know, like this is $17 worth of stuff. And I was like, well, I'll give you $40. Like, I was prepared to pay.
Here's a 20. And
I'm prepared to pay for the stuff that I want.
Yeah.
But my point was, we went to this, like, there's this beach. And so there's all these like trailers lined up along the beach and people hang out, right? And then there's the way that it's set up is if you walk there's a shortcut that you cut through the parking lot where people are kind of set up outside their trailers and lawn chairs or whatever, or you can walk in the sand for another 200 yards and then we'll have to walk around back and go up this path.
Okay.
So I'm just like, okay, we'll cut through the parking lot, right? I cut through the parking lot. This guy is sitting there with his wife. They're in their 60s or whatever. And the wife she goes, huh, I guess you're just going to cut through our thing, right? And it was like...
What kind of trailers? Like the trailers that people live in?
I think they just bring them there to park.
Okay.
And then they sort of set up a tailgate outside their trailer.
But so I guess my question is, why do they care that you're walking through?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they were just like...
Only because the rules say that you walk around.
I don't know. There is the rule. Maybe there are rules that they
not
made
rules,
up.
but they're saying like, oh, there's a path. So then, therefore, in their mind, you're like, there's a rule that you take the path. You're not. So they're just the kind of rule enforcers.
They're kind of like, I didn't step on anything.
Yeah, you didn't.
They just were inconvenienced. They're sitting in their lawn chairs having drinks, and they're inconvenienced by me walking by when it would save me 9 minutes.
And
of
there's
walking.
tons of other people everywhere.
Yeah, and then the guy. And the guy's like, hey, we're like, you're going to walk through a thing? And I go, yeah, is that like that big of a problem? And then the guy's like, well, there is a path to go around, kind of saying that. I was like, I mean, what exactly is the issue here? Was this the worst part of your day that you had to see me walk by? And then the guy's like, well, I'm just saying you shouldn't walk by. And she's very like, oh, come on. Oh, no, it's fine. We'll go the other way. And I was like, no, we won't go the other way. These people are being unreasonable. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like this thing.
And you're already there at that point.
Yeah. And then the chick her attitude is like, you're being fucking, a menace to people. And I'm like, we don't know these people and they're being dicks.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? I would never in a million years see some like your younger people take a shortcut through and I'd be like, hey. It's one thing if I walk through, stepped on all their stuff.
Yeah. Or like knocked over their stuff, or it's like,
And normally I'm like so nice to people. Like even me and you are,
yeah, of course.
We're the type of guys that are friends with every cab driver and bodega owner and bartender and doorman. Like we're nice to people. Mm-hmm. But if the same thing is if you go to a bar and you're about to walk in and you go the wrong way and the bouncer's like, hey, and like pushes you over.
Yeah, of course.
You're just like, well, now you're being an asshole.
Exactly. And then and then you're just like,
so I'm nice to people until they're an asshole to me for no reason. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I wouldn't go through like walk over your stuff.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny because
that is weird though, and that they would, I don't know.
And girls are very like, come on, oh no problem. It's like, no, it is a problem. Yeah. And it was like, what's the big deal? It was like, the big deal is I don't like walking through life having people like fucking big dog me for no reason.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't like to be fucking like,
especially
talked to like I'm a child.
Yeah, and especially like keeping like these arbitrary rules where they go like, you're not like doing something insane. Like you're not like cutting a line. It's not like you're like, hey, there's all these people lined up, and then you just are like, oh, I'm just gonna pop in front of you there, and you go like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, and then that's like, you go, yeah, I'm on the side of the guy who's like, you like cut ahead of them, and they've been waiting all day or whatever. You're just like, yeah, just walking by, and they're like, this isn't a legal walking area.
If you are set up there, you understand that it's not like someone walking by every second. Mm-hmm. The odd person walks by every 45 minutes. And if they cut through one of the 19 trailers, which are all, 15 yards apart. So it's not like there's this like tiny little area that it saves you 10 minutes.
And couldn't you be like
walking through concrete as opposed to sand with your shoes on?
Couldn't you be like part of one of the trailers that's there? Couldn't you be like, oh, that's my trailer over there?
They would still say, well, you have to walk through your respective trailer.
This is a designated.
No, it was just fucking the hall monitors. Dangerous people, my dad used to call them. He liked that term.
Dangerous people, that's funny. Yeah, that's the kind of thing where it's like, that's the classic, like, you what is it? You ask for, don't ask for ask for forgiveness
and not permission.
Yeah, you just do the thing and you go, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You just go.
That should have been.
You go, oh, sorry, never see you again. Bye.
And that would have, and exactly, and all of that would have been fine. But they sort of exploded where it was like, well, now I'm not going to be verbally berated by both of you for like 8 sentences apiece. Yeah. I eventually, I was like, oh yeah, no, sorry. And then they were like, well, it's just, and then I was like, okay, what?
Yeah.
Now let's break it down. It's the equivalent of like I always say with your fucking, even when you are with your chick, it's like there's a bit of like a girl being like, hey, don't put your, mug on the counter or whatever, right? And you go, oh, okay, so I won't do that again. But like, if it's another thing where it's like, they go, don't put your mug on the counter, and you go, oh, okay, and then they go, well, well, you definitely shouldn't do that. Like, are you trying to make me unhappy? Like, you don't care about this relationship. Then you're like, okay.
Yeah, okay. You're like, okay, I said fine.
Yeah, you go.
You're like, this should have ended by now. And
that's kind of what it felt like to me, where you're having this scenario. But there was like 3 or 4 of those. And then the girl.
See, my play is usually I get really like passive aggressive and sarcastic with people like that, where I can like, I try and piss them off, but like in the nicest way possible, but to the point where I like, it's even worse than
what's an example?
Like I would be like, oh, I would say like something similar, but I would straight up be like, oh, I didn't, like I don't know exactly what, on the scenario, but it would be something where like in my mind, like I would be like more pissing them off.
Well, to be honest, I do kind of do that because I was like, this is a huge problem for you, is it? Mm-hmm. Like that was kind of my energy.
Yeah.
I was like, what exactly what exactly damage have I done right now? Mm-hmm. That you're having a fucking mental conniption?
Mental conniption.
But that stuff is it was.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that the King of England was in town.
Right. And yeah. So it does feel a little bit like, I feel like that's a lot of relationships. It's a guy-girl thing where girls are very, let's not bother anybody ever. Mm-hmm. Until they reach 50, and then they're like, let's bother everyone. Let's send every piece of food back. But then they have it on their own things. That was kind of an argument I was making a little bit. I was kind of like, every girl has it on their things. They just kind of, like, for example, you'll see a girl, like, get bad service one time and kind of be like flipping out and be like, whereas if I was there, I probably would have been, a little nicer. But I would never go to a girl now and be like, hey, you should treat those people on the phone better. It's like if they're fucking in a yelling match with someone, I just stay out of it.
Yeah, I'm not involved. But I'm not involving myself in that.
Maybe that's a pet peeve of mine anyway. I just don't like being told what to do by anyone.
Yeah.
And when I'm being like fucking treated like a little kid by someone or something, I'm just like, I don't like it. And the last thing I want when I'm in that mood is my chick to come in and be like, I'm on their side.
Yeah, for sure. Also, people who are like seizing authority, who have like, no reason, not even no reason, no right in any scenario. It's not like you're the fucking doorman of a place someone hired you to keep people out or something.
Right.
You're just like sitting there and you're enforcing like park rules.
And that is the doorman situation.
I mean, it's literally Karen shit. It's like, I know it's a fucking so like, tacky,
exactly.
But if someone goes, oh, you're not allowed to barbecue here, and you're like,
that's what they're doing.
Here.
Yeah, fuck
like,
you.
Like, fuck you. It's like, what are you talking about? Go get the park ranger if you really care. It's like,
right, and that's kind of what I'm saying. And like, then the girl's like, well, if we're breaking the rules, we're breaking the rules. Who gives a shit about their stupid rules?
Yeah.
Fucking take life by the balls.
Take life by the balls and let's cut through this parking lot. Did you cut through that parking lot? You're like, I never felt so fucking alive in my life as I did when I cut through this parking lot.
So the first thing I wanted to go through.
I have a question actually just before we get to this because
we have a question, ladies and gentlemen.
No. Do you ever, now that we live in America and you have these confrontations, do you ever at all in the back of your mind being like, the odds of this confrontation involving a gun at some point has increased at all?
No, I've
never. Not I'm saying that like it would, but do you ever do like a quick calculus where you go like, okay, if we like really get into this and this goes like really gets to a head to the worst case scenario.
One got close actually this weekend.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So, but do you?
I forgot. As you're saying that, I'm like thinking of this, and I was like, oh, I think I got into quite a few of those this weekend.
Okay. and I will say, as someone, I go, well, maybe there's something that's you. You were just fucking out you were feeling some fighting.
Sure,
you were getting into it, but I'm
maybe
saying
a little bit. But the pet peeve of mine is when someone else like comes in and takes the other person's side.
Yeah, especially when it's your girlfriend, for sure. But I'm saying, do you ever have that calculus now that you're in America where you go like, something happens, you go like, oh, like, God,
no, I don't do the calculus.
Never where you go, maybe like.
Do you know what the other one this guy got in?
No.
It's like, you're right. Sometimes it is where this is what the scenario is. If you break it down, you go, well, maybe you didn't have to do that. Like in that scenario, it's like you could say, well, you didn't have to walk through the thing. It's like, sure, I did a tiny infraction.
Yeah.
And the reaction from them was so over the top that I'm pissed off.
Exactly. Where it should have just been like, you walk through, they go, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And you go, oh, sorry.
Well, guess the next one. Well, don't guess it. There's no way you'll guess it. But so what happened was a guy in the hotel.
Yeah.
I was walking down the stairs and he was in the lobby with his dog. And I walked out the door and he goes, hey, you walked too close to my dog. He goes, you just walk that close to people's dogs? You're going to scare them. So he says, I walked too close to his dog. And he says, I scared him. I go, dude, you got your dog on this long leash. It's like, I don't know, what? What are you talking about? He's like, you just walk close to people's dogs? And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Big dog?
I'm the hotel staff there. I go, is this like a thing I should know about where it's like you're not supposed to be, you're supposed to keep like 6 feet away from people's dogs?
Was there a part where you go, I'm this like Canadian bumpkin who's in this new country with all these new customs I don't know about?
There's a new custom where this wasn't like a fucking
big dog or small dog?
Medium. Like not even some like, some pit bull is frothing at the mouth where you go, maybe stay away from that dog. Standard average dog.
I mean, you're like, it's either I bumped into your dog or I didn't bump into your dog.
I didn't bump into the dog, nor did I come close to bumping into the dog.
That's so funny.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
That one, everyone in the lobby was kind of like rolling their eyes. But to be honest, this guy was a little bit, that was where he seemed like the type that would be like, I said, don't bump into my dog.
He goes, now you're going to dance. Dance.
It makes you dance. Pew, pew. Something else.
That's funny.
Okay. But
did you fucking almost bump into my dog? I don't know. Did I?
Do you know, I meant to talk about this last week, but we never got to it. But I thought it was a interesting thing. The whole Stern Rogan thing bubbling up like crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you heard what Stern said, but he said, we have no time for idiots in this country anymore. Stern said, we don't want you. We want you all to either go to the hospital, stay home, die there with your COVID. Don't take the cure, but don't clog up hospitals with your COVID when you finally get it. Stay home. Don't bother us with science. It's too late. Go fuck yourself. We just don't have the time for you.
Yeah, I heard that, which is...
So there's like so much to
first off,
quote,
this country
unquote, unpack here.
Unpack it. First off, the country is like the home of exceptional idiots. Like this is like a country where you go, you can be an idiot and really make something of yourself as an idiot.
Snooky.
Like Howard Stern. He was fucking done
Right.
all these being a literal dumb idiot. That was funny. You're like, you know how many other countries you go, oh, that's a town idiot. We give him some food every week so he doesn't die.
And here you go. He's the most famous guy in the world.
Yeah, he goes, the most famous guy in the world. He's fucking Tom Green. He goes, like, you literally act an idiot. You go, this guy's a fucking genius.
Well, I felt, as I was thinking about this, there's so much to say about it. But I'll just say, before we get into like too off topic, I would say just watching the beginning part, there is the amount of times I've watched the edgy person views align with exactly what the mainstream is, but still have their edgy energy.
Yeah.
It's the guy on stage.
That's a really good way of putting it.
It's the guy on stage right now that is saying like, if you don't think women are fucking good, well, then you can fuck right off.
Yeah.
If there's some racists in the audience, here's something to think about. Stop being fucking racist. Oh, you know what? Maybe how many dead racists can you like?
Yeah.
You know,
it's the Simpsons when Krusty starts fucking peddling the Canyonero. Remember where he's like supposed to be Bill Hicks and then corporate gets to him and he starts talking about the Canyonero.
Yeah. But you just mentioned Tom Green, and by the way,
I think actually Tom Green is a genius. I'm just saying he was acting like an idiot. I don't want you to make you think
I only
like,
wanted to bring this up because so Tom Green's one of
like he's like one of my favorite.
But I think that about Howard Stern too. Mm-hmm. It's tough to stay on top without, and I've talked about this a little bit. So you gotta find a way to age into your legacy position, and being the wild take guy is a bit of a young person's game, and it's impossible just incentive wise to be so famous, so in the industry. And
you just can't be compromised by Hollywood and be opinionated.
It's
because
very
the moment
tough.
you become, it's like the fucking Colbert with the syringe thing or whatever. You're like, it's
oh
just
my God.
one of the worst things you ever seen. But look, the moment you start taking fat fucking Hollywood paychecks, like where you're like a judge on America's Got Talent, like your opinions are set in stone. like you don't have opinions. They go, here are your opinions. There's the range of opinions you're allowed to have.
At the very least, here's your range.
Your range, you can have none. That's fine.
So you're aggressively say those opinions.
Yeah, you can aggressively say those opinions.
Not to say he doesn't even necessarily believe
he
it.
might, yeah.
But if you, and this is something that I've said on this podcast so many times, is that I have lots of times where I think, you know what, I think the general consensus on that's kind of right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
For sure.
And then I say, you know what, I'm not going to touch on this. It's like the majority of people aren't wrong on every single issue. They're wrong a lot, and usually sometimes they're right for the wrong reasons or whatever. But when something happens where I kind of like agree with what everyone's saying, I usually just don't cover it or make a video about it, because you go, it doesn't need to be said. It's like you don't just go and say it louder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like so
like if you think Trump sucked, even if you don't, but I think most people that even like Trump can be like, yeah, maybe that thing he said was wild, or he shouldn't have said that as the president or whatever, right? And if you do agree with that, what's the point of saying that when every single other person is? Mm-hmm. So it's like this,
just to make sure everybody knows that you're on their team.
So it's I kind of everyone's
which
like,
we know that because you're a fucking host of America's Got Talent,
right? So everyone in Hollywood is saying this, like, you know, people that don't want to get vaccinated, fuck you. It's like he's like, well, I'll say it more aggressively, whatever, right?
Sure.
And there's also the threatened by Joe Rogan stuff. But, you touched on a few things that I feel like I'm in podcast mode here. Let's unpack this. And you also touched on a few things, right? But because three things you said, I was like, good point to bring up. But you said the Sarah Silverman, she recently, like, she's so popular, right? Mm-hmm. And I know people that know her, they're kind of like, she's just kind of like a flower child opinions or whatever.
Yeah.
In some ways. But she has obviously been very funny, but she started a podcast of just her solo.
Yeah. And I will say too, by the way, okay, but her liberalism was counterculture for a while.
Correct.
And so she just hasn't changed.
Well, it was the edgy liberalism.
The edgy liberalism of the late 90s and stuff. That was the counterculture. And she was like saying edgy shit.
But she has a podcast where she just talks for an hour or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And she's like, every week a new one of her points is, on blast from this side. It's like, she's just always in trouble or whatever. And it was to some degree where you're just like, why would she want to have a podcast? It's like, it's very, very difficult to be like that popular in line with the public opinion without being boring or a villain.
Yeah.
So
what does she do right now that's not podcasting?
Well, I'm sure she tours, and I don't know what she writes on, and she's in probably lots of things where you wouldn't even notice. She pops up like she's in this movie and TV show, and I'm sure there's lots of different
guest roles.
I'm sure she pops up in a lot of different things, but with someone like that, everything she says now is just under so much scrutiny because she came out and she was like the Jew face comment, right? Which is this week. And her point is, representation matters and people shouldn't pretend to be Jewish people when they're not.
I love that. It's a problem with Hollywood. Not enough Jews. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And we come so full circle with like diversity and identity politics where we're straight up being like, there's not enough Jews in Hollywood. And like, you gotta be like, you know what? There aren't enough Jews in Hollywood.
It's a bold ass take.
Like, what?
Right?
Like, how cooked are you?
But she's operating in the framework where that's coming from a position of compassion in her mind. But it's so far removed from like the actual realities of like the situation that exists on the ground floor.
Yeah. Well, no, I think what it is she has these mental models.
That's
yeah,
what
yeah,
I'm sorry. You're saying it better, but that's what
yeah. She just is like, look, I agree that a fucking trans person should play a trans character. Therefore, I have to now agree that blank should play blank.
She has a mental model
in all things.
That is exactly what that is.
Yeah.
But the idea of Jew face is just so funny. But then people, here's you doing blackface, here's you doing this, and here's you doing this, and what's the difference? It's like, well, I'm better now. Well, no, the difference is you're older now, and more famous now. Mm-hmm. But
you'd think if you had a fucking like real own of you doing blackface, you'd maybe just like stay out of the Jew face debate. Let someone else take this. Like, you know what's going to happen here.
And it was the bad blackface too.
Yeah, it was like the fucking
The polish.
Yeah, exactly. It was like the Al Jolson the minstrel shit.
Well, the Tom Green thing that you sparked me that I was going to say was just me and Danny were talking about this with someone. I can't remember who, but I thought it was the funniest story where me and Danny, we didn't talk about this on the podcast, did we?
I don't think so.
When we went to the strip club?
No.
So maybe this was just talking about
on fucking Omics, maybe.
So I thought we were just talking about this personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So me and Danny, I was on tour with Tom Green in North Bay.
That was funny.
And yeah, it was the best, right?
That was a good time.
Yeah. So we went to North Bay.
Ontario. Because there's some nice North Bays.
Yeah, yeah.
This was not the nice
Me and Danny went together, and so basically, there's all the radio people there after the show, and there's kind of like an after party at the thing. So me and Danny are hanging out with Tom Green. This is when he's we're like very young comics compared to him. It's like very, very
and it was
cool
the caterer, remember?
Yeah, this is the caterer, and the radio guys were all like. It's me, Danny, and Tom Green hanging out. So they're just like, anywhere you guys come, like unlimited drinks, unlimited everything. Come through the strip club. We run this club.
The caterer owned the strip club. Italian guy. Because like apparently North Bay and like Sudbury was like all these mobster people moved there and like they like left the big city to like get under the radar.
Yeah. So that was what it was.
Yeah.
And they were like, come through. All of you guys will give you anything you want. Tom Green goes, I'm going to go home. Me and Danny decide we're going to take him up on all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we show up at the club and we're all like, hey, we're here with like the Tom Green party. He told us to come through and get free everything. And then they basically go, oh, okay, we'll put you there. And then they're like, is Tom on his way? And we go, oh, I don't think he's actually coming, but maybe he'll show up.
He said he was tired.
He said he was tired, right? And the guy goes, oh, okay. And then someone else comes. We're like, yeah, apparently it's on the house, everything. And then we watch the waiter walk over to the back and where we can still see him. He looks at the owner and he goes, he whispers, he like tells him the story, points at us. We see the owner look over at us, roll his eyes, and he kind of shrugs and he goes, ugh. And then the waiter comes back and he goes, he says you can have 2 or 3 drinks each.
They were like Coors Light too. They're like $2 a pop is what they cost them.
He was 5 seconds before he goes, whatever
you want.
We rolled through without Tom Green and he was like, ugh. They came occupying one of my good booths that was for celebrities.
It was a grimy strip club.
Danny were sitting there drinking our Coors Lights.
Yeah.
Other people were coming by. So is Tom coming through? It's the guy from the show. Is Tom coming through?
It might be.
So funny. Another thing. So that's the other. And then the other thing, there's all the older person is always threatened by the younger person.
Is he that much older than Joe Rogan?
Yeah, he is that much
10
older.
years?
Stern's like 66, 67.
Right. He must be one.
But it doesn't matter. I mean, there's people that are my age that are like really new on the scene, and there's people my age that have been, they've been around forever. I mean,
yeah.
I remember in the music scene, it just depends on when you popped off. I mean, stand-up's a little more of a trajectory that coincides with age. But I remember, we popped off when we were 20. So I remember feeling like an elder at 22.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then there was some other bands that kind of we were in the same level cohort with. Mm-hmm. I mean, when stand-up starts, it's always the people you started with is not necessarily always your age, right?
No. They're just the people who were around at that time.
But that being said, Joe Rogan is probably almost 20 years younger to some degree. He's 65. Joe Rogan's probably 50.
Yeah.
So it's, he's probably like 17, 18 years younger. But he's the new cool, new shiny thing. I remember Josh Adam Myers put it that way. We were talking about moving to New York and he was kind of talking to different places. He was like, well, I'm the new shiny thing here for a minute. So you get all this stuff, which is, I was the new shiny thing in New York for a little bit and everyone wants you on their show and everyone wants you on their thing. And then it's kind of like you're just around.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But so there's that where it's like Howard Stern was, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time and did it for the longest.
Yeah.
And him and Joe Rogan aren't even really the same exact thing, but they're occupying the same spot in culture.
Yeah. And they were close.
The biggest broadcaster that could make stars.
Yes.
You know, there was a moment where Joe Rogan, he even did the same trajectory of now going behind a paywall as Howard Stern. Like they had a very similar trajectory.
That is
a lot
true,
of controversy. They had all the controversial guests, did all the things you're not supposed to do, was so big that everyone tried to take you down. And then afterwards, it's like they went behind a paywall at some point and were able to do what they want. But, you know, their stock dropped a little bit.
Yeah, they lost their...
So now Howard Stern is always kind of going out there. He's had his war on podcasting, all this stuff, whereas he could have very much, you know, saw to some degree his decline and sat back into like a real more mature legacy position, maybe the way David Letterman has done. The way that Obama has done.
Yeah, but again, he's still fucking America's Got Talent host. Like it's not a small
But that
gig.
is a legacy. You're just like, you're almost at that point when you're in America's, it's like a fun job and it's all those things. But you're like part of the scenery. You're just around. You're a big Hollywood guy that's around.
Yeah, you're just yeah.
You know? So I think that's the space he's occupying. But the other thing this is just
he's definitely not like a thought leader by any means where people are like, you know, what does fucking Stern think about this?
No.
No.
He's not a thought leader anymore.
Not at all.
But he's also not a thought leader of who's the new guy. Joe Rogan, for a while, was telling everyone, here's the new guy.
Yeah.
Johnny Carson goes, here's the new guy. And everyone listened.
For sure.
When Joe Rogan said Tim Dillon's the new guy, he was going to be on my podcast 10 times. Everyone was like, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
And he made the right picks.
True.
The problem with all these legacy people is they stop making the right picks and they stop making the right picks.
Well, it's because they're so detached.
They become detached. They start listening to who the things was. No one would have picked Howard Stern, you know. They had to because his ratings were so fucking high.
Yeah.
He would go be the local guy in Chicago and just destroy everyone. And that led, you know, he's had fights with everyone all the way through.
I wonder what his numbers are like on Sirius right now.
Can't be amazing.
Honestly, I was actually like, does he still have a show? But I'm like, yeah, no, he has a show.
He does. He's always going on vacation. I have a friend who still listens to it.
Yeah.
One buddy, he'll be like, oh, Richard and Sal did this. And you're just like, you're still on that, huh?
Yeah.
Richard and Sal did some of the funniest phone calls like some of the stuff that was on the Howard Stern show. I don't know if anyone will ever do anything that funny ever again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too, is
prank phone calls.
like you see like the guys who were on there forever, like Jackie and whatever. And then you see like, I'll see them on Instagram and he has like 1,200 followers.
It's tough.
And you're like, man.
You know, some of those guys like retweet my new stuff and, you know, like Shuley and some of those other guys. Like we know.
Shuley's probably doing better than fucking Jackie Martling.
Yeah, maybe.
Honestly, I think he is.
Yeah, probably.
It's crazy.
So it is interesting how it all shakes down. But the truth is, almost no one is the most relevant in their space forever. It's almost impossible. And it's even more impossible when you're 70 years old. So you kind of, and to some degree, he like, you know, started dating a Hollywood person. He's going on vacation with Jimmy Kimmel and all. He's in it.
Yeah, he's like, again, it's like Colbert doing the vaccine dance. I'm sure if fucking you sat down with Colbert and you go, what are you doing? He'll look at you like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like the same bewildered look you give him, he'll give you. He's like, what do you mean? Like, this is good.
Yeah, once the establishment's on your side, it can be a really big tool in the sense that everything Howard Stern says, we're making fun of it. But at the end of the day, every magazine was like, Stern tells it like it is.
Yeah. Also, you have a quality of life and the way people treat you and all that stuff that you don't want to lose. And the surest way to lose that is to
You also don't want to lose being a darling.
Yeah. And the surest way to lose everything you have in your life is to say, you know what? I don't think you should get vaccinated. It should be your choice, blah, blah, blah. And people are like, what the fuck is Howard Stern doing?
You'll lose it all. So the media
like
the establishment becomes
Russell Brand's doing.
It becomes a tool, but it also handcuffs you. And Russell Brand is getting, you know, so much
Russell
shit.
Brand's never going to work in Hollywood ever again.
But at the same time, Russell Brand is relevant as he's as relevant as ever.
Yes.
Like Russell Brand, what he says to some degree matters in terms of like the zeitgeist. He is moving needles.
Well, because he made a choice where he goes, you know what? I'm not going to let Hollywood close the door on me. I'm going to close the door and just move on. Like
he's already done the Hollywood thing.
Yeah, exactly. He did it, but he goes like, I'm just going to go live in England. I got like fucking wife and kids or whatever. I'm going to do my thing. And like his thing is sealing the door, like, whatever he's doing, he's guaranteeing. Maybe he'll get a show in England. I don't know, but
Howard Stern's brilliance, in my opinion, was always honing in on the thing. I remember when I read his biography, Howard Stern did a list of who the comedians were that are funny and who the comedians are that aren't funny. the way that, Stern, if Rogan did that now, being on the Rogan's your funny list,
yeah,
and being on the Rogan not funny list would be like a blow.
Yeah.
And Howard Stern had that power, right? But it's because he always had the power he was able to do that with a bit. Like the way that they be operating bits, he could focus in on the funny part. It's kind of when we were having that conversation with JJ. A lot of people do street interviews and they just kind of do it and they ask questions and do funny stuff. But that's not what the trick is. The people that are the greatest at it are kind of, they have their almost homing beacon energy seekers out for,
that's the thing.
Holy shit, that's funny.
Yeah, and then you just kind of
beat that over the head with a hammer.
Yeah. My
the way that the best, traders or something, they see a hole and just exploit it. They're the best entrepreneurs. They're doing all this stuff and then they were just like, holy shit, there is a need for this in the world.
I didn't tell you this actually, but the doorman at my girlfriend's building, I told you he really likes all the sketches and everything and the podcast and stuff. Shout out to Evan. I don't know if you're listening to this, but he buzzed me up one day and then he was on the phone with my girlfriend and he goes, Danny's on his way up. And he answers I buzz and he goes, oh, hey, Danny, whatever. And then he on his way up and then he was talking to her. He goes, Danny's on his way up. And she goes, okay. And he goes, hope he doesn't put you in a basket.
Oh, because he likes the girlfriend basket.
And my girl's like, what? He goes, yeah, I hope he doesn't put you in a basket. I was like, that's so fucking funny.
That is funny. So you have to have banter with this guy every time now.
No, I never see him. No. He's on the other side of the building.
So. I mean, he could be listening to this currently.
Sometimes. I've gone over there to see him to just say what's up sometimes, and he's not there though. I like him.
Okay.
Yeah, no, he's a cool guy.
What do you mean you go over to say what's up?
Because there's two entrances.
Oh.
So sometimes I'll go in on the other entrance just to be like, hey.
You like to get the praise. You like to walk in.
No, I like him.
Yes, I'm him.
No, I liked him. He's a nice guy.
You like to get the praise.
He goes, hey, how much weight have you lost? Thanks, Evan. The basket thing, I just laughed at.
I mentioned this on the podcast, but I had the one guy in the subway and he goes, you. And I go, wow, why? And he goes, you make the funny videos. I was like, holy shit, dude. I thought I was going to get pushed on the tracks.
I could have gone anyway.
So the funniest thing that I should have, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I honestly think sometimes in my own just life, my own personal life, I have some bits that just, I would walk away from myself being like, damn, you're good, dude. It just never turns off with you. Yeah. My chick. So I was telling her about, she was talking about some guy. It might have been she saw something by Brett Weinstein or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, he just did 3 hours talking about it on this huge podcast. And she was like, what it was called? And I was like, I think it was this podcast called JRE. And then she was like, oh, what's JRE? She always, and I go, I don't know. It's this guy. He's got this huge platform, right? I don't know. He used to be he had this show Fear Factor back in the day, and then he was a UFC guy or something. And then now, but she doesn't know if it's called JRE, and she doesn't know what he is. So she's like, oh, crazy, right? And then she was like, so it's big, and I'm like, honestly, it was the biggest one in the world. I think he's behind a paywall now, so it's some of the listeners are gone. You really never heard of this thing? And it was going on and on and on, right? She's like, so what does he do? I go, I don't know. Sometimes he actually has some comedians on, some of my friends have been on there. He has a lot of, he does a lot of UFC stuff and he'll have thinkers on. I guess that's why he had Brett Weinstein or whatever. I'm really drilling it down for first pitch. I had her talking for half an hour eventually. Right. And then my goal was I wanted her to look it up and see the picture. Yeah. And then I could be standing there what? I told you. I don't know. And I have to pretend. I go, I don't know. I didn't know if you know it. So I go, yeah, he was he's been the UFC announcer forever. So maybe you don't know it because you don't know UFC or whatever, but you never. And I go, he was actually on he was on a sitcom back in the day. Did that help? Yeah. And it's going on and on, right? He's bald. He's bald. Nothing. He's short. He's kind of bald, and it's going on forever. And then eventually, I was like, I don't know. Look up a picture. Maybe you've seen him. And then she looks at the picture. Finally, after 20 minutes, she goes, "Fuck you." And I go, "What? You told me you never heard of it. What did I lie about?"
The best part is people are listening to this and go, how old is Ryan's girlfriend?
She doesn't know anything. Dude, she knows zero fucking cultural references. It makes me, sometimes it's like, I have that thing where I go, am I old or does she not know anything? It's half and half.
Yeah, I have that sometimes too with mine. She knows all about like DJs.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about
I was loving the idea of when you can fucking break that down where like you see, there's there's this old like politics guy. I don't know, like black guy. I don't know, his wife's name's Michelle. And blah blah. You're talking
first black president ever.
Yeah, well, you can't say that because anyone would know that. You have to pick things that like won't ring a bell for them.
Tan suit controversy.
Yeah, but once they like look at him, it's like So I think the way that it describes the Stern thing that was funny to me was that my mom, she didn't like Stern forever, and she said he was gross. And then she's watched new Stern, been going on his press tour about how he's changed and how much therapy he's doing. And my mom like loves Stern right now. And she's like, he's the best, he's become so compassionate. And that's what a lot of people were posting, like Mr. Compassionate new Stern, like, saying, fuck you, you should die, all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I keep telling my mom, it's like, no, that's fake. Like his new compassionate is just the stuff you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not, he's just saying all of every Hollywood point. Like, and I'm yelling at my mom at this point, right? But I get into it with her about this specific, where some of the other ones, if she's talking about fucking, John Travolta, and she goes, used to be an asshole, but he's actually nice. I go, sure, right?
Yeah.
But I go, no, this was one of my favorite people forever. I know him as much as anyone in the world. You're not gonna. I'm right. I know him. You don't know him. Yeah, me and him. We should be together.
We should fucking be together. Here's the thing: people can change, not that much.
That's true.
Like people have the capacity to change themselves to a degree, but not. You can't just you don't reinvent yourself when you're 65.
No, you don't. You just get like tired of the fight.
No, or you're just like, I want. You're almost so sociopathic about it. Where you're like, I want a new persona. Like I'm tired of.
Well, and your new persona,
tired of who I was.
And your new persona is that my mom thinks that you're a nice guy. Didn't like all your other stuff. That's the kind of when you become so fucking hyper, one-sided. That's the fans you do get. And I get this where you go not good riddance, but it is to some degree when people go, you disagreed with me on this one thing, unfollow. And you're like, yeah, you're right. I don't want a fan that disagrees with me on one thing and unfollow.
Yeah, you're like, again, yeah, for sure.
That's the thing I was saying about like Paul. I was thinking about, I was like, probably worldview wise, I think I agree with him as much as anyone, and comedically or whatever. But it's like, what we used to do was do the shows at the corner, and then me and him would get drinks and yell at each other for 3 hours about everything, disagree on every point.
Yeah.
And he's one of my best friends.
Yeah, it's fine.
Whereas like some people that say that, they love your comedy, and then you disagree, and then you do something where they go, I disagree with you so much, and you're just like, well, then then you were liking me for the wrong reasons. If you were liking...
Yeah, go listen to Howard Stern. There you go. Howard Stern has fucking some openings.
Yeah, he's got some openings.
Colbert's got some openings for you.
So I thought it was interesting to kind of see his transition, you know?
I think it's just a function of the money you take from corporations, not to sound all fucking too like...
And your brain adapting to the money.
It's like, granted... Rogan is also taking money from corporations in the form of Spotify, but he kind of like openly makes a point of saying how he will not be corrupted.
Well, he's taken the way that whereas Stern used to.
But Stern, I don't think I correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like he ever was like making a point. He's like, yeah, I'm taking the Sirius XM money, but like I'll always be Stern. Like he was just like, yeah, we got the show, it's great, making people laugh, and then it was like it's more like the melting ice cube thing where it just like it just kind of gradually, and you go, oh, it's gone.
Gradually, yeah.
It's so slowly though, where you're like, it's just there, and then
the only way, Howard Stern is very into getting press. If it's kind of the same way those leaked things at the meetings where it's like, we need Lady Gaga, which kind of shows how, was like if he had any smarts, he'd be getting Jordan Peterson when Stern was or whatever, right? But the thing is, with him, the only way he can get press now is really yelling stuff the media really agrees with.
Yeah, and then they make him go trending on Twitter. They go,
but that's the only way he can do it. So the only way for him to get press is to go against this stuff. So it's like he's doing what's in line.
Plus, then when he opens his Twitter mentions, it's not everybody being like, fuck you.
He opens his Twitter mentions and everyone's like, Stern's the man.
Yeah, you're the
And
best.
he's kind of like, I'm doing it right. But what he doesn't remember, because Twitter didn't exist, is when he was popping off before, where everyone at the workplace by the water cooler was like, fuck Stern rules. The actual media was like, fuck Howard Stern.
Exactly. This guy's a bad guy.
But at the, how they always say in black community, they say at the barber shop, what are people saying? On the streets, people are like, Stern's gone soft. But if you just pay attention to his Twitter feed, he's like, oh, I'm doing it right.
Exactly. And he's also probably like, I'm all of them.
Yeah. So speaking of older comedians, Jerry Seinfeld, familiar? Mm-hmm. New York, I don't want to say, what's the word they said?
Jew?
No, what did they say? They said money worshipping.
Money worshiper?
Money worshippers. But no, so Seinfeld, who I was actually listening to an older thing of James Altucher again. I'm a fan of Altucher.
Yeah, I like the Altucher.
And him and, I think he was right in the Altucher Seinfeld bit. But Seinfeld is now on Netflix, the greatest shows of all time. And they made another $500 million deal. Just, some might say they worship it, but
The money worshiper.
But they released an article, 5 challenges Seinfeld faces in connecting with viewers on Netflix. And basically, the media is coming out ahead of the game being like, Seinfeld's not going to be able to connect to people because of how's it going to fit into a new intersectional modern lens with people. Mm-hmm. And they said, can one of the most influential comedies in TV history score with modern streaming audiences the way that Friends and The Office did years before? And the reasons for
you can't compare it to Office. Different era.
I think you can compare
Was
it.
Friends a huge hit on Netflix?
Yeah, they both were.
Okay. Office, obviously. Office is probably the most successful.
And this also is going to be. Mm-hmm. Hands down, no question.
But I'm talking about like, are 15-year-olds going to be going and binge watching Seinfeld?
Well, maybe not, but they don't have to.
They don't. No, obviously, if people our age are going, oh, Seinfeld's back on, I'm going to watch
15-year-olds are binge watching TikTok.
True.
I'm sure a lot of them.
I think 15-year-olds are what they are watching is like Sopranos.
Oh, that's a big one right now. The Sopranos is that's like whoa, fuck, what was the analogy? But it's just like
it's kind of timeless.
It's timeless. It's the new Wire, but it's what's like the biggest girl show ever? I was just saying it's like the biggest girl show for guys.
Gilmore
but I can't
Girls.
No, I'm the biggest girl show.
I don't know.
No, it's like whatever, Kardashians for guys.
Right.
I was saying some shit about that, but it's basically like the big fucking. That's the new The Wire, right?
I've been watching it again. It's so good.
I mean, it's incredible.
So good. I don't know if I'd like The Wire as much as I did then.
I think Sopranos is better too.
Yeah, me too.
So it's about, the first problem is it's about characters are pretty much awful. So they're saying, and first of all, I would say apathetic's probably a better description. You know what I mean? Where it's just, Jerry Seinfeld is playing a version of himself as a medieval stand-up comic with a Peter Pan complex. In one episode, he drugged a woman he was dating to play with her vintage toy collection.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's pretty fucked up.
But like, this
Jerry.
is the kind of things they're saying. Like in this, but the thing is, these people who have a problem with this couldn't watch Office either.
No.
Like these publications and these media made a bunch of they did this already with Friends and Office.
Yeah.
Is Office too problematic? And then what happens is you make a lot of stink and they take 1 or 2 episodes off.
Yeah.
But normal people don't care. They just like watching it because they think it's funny.
Are they pulling Seinfeld episodes?
They will.
They're talking about it?
If they haven't already, they will.
Yeah.
For sure. No question.
I did forget about the drugging.
Well, he drugged a woman. But you go, the same
And
thing.
he's like, yeah, to play with their toys.
But it's like same. You just said Sopranos is the biggest show. It's like, yeah, they were actually murdering and they shoved a pool cue up a guy's ass because he was gay.
Yeah.
And I guess they would say, well, that never should have been made.
Well, they were just Italian.
Well, I guess their biggest problem is they get to be the protagonist. I mean, remember we read the whole article where they're saying like, they're grappling with how do they make, guys like Jerry Seinfeld protagonists. It's like, well, the way that they can do it is if they lose all the time.
Not Jerry. George
said Jerry Seinfeld is playing a version of himself. And they said his ex-girlfriend, Elaine, at one point tries to find out from a grieving widower if she can get his rent-controlled apartment. So they're listing off, like, can you believe
You're running out of fucking grievances if that's number 2.
That's a good point.
That's your second worst thing?
Yeah.
Have you ever lived in New York?
Right. But also, they're like, the amount that you have to not understand comedy to be like, I can't watch that show. What
That
happened
person
in
was
it?
mean.
That was gruesome. That was fucking gruesome. What happened in it? Okay. I don't know if I want to tell you, but this woman,
This white woman,
this fucking white woman asked this man, who's grieving nonetheless. And then they said, I remember laughing a lot at these storylines when they originally aired, but now it's some pretty pathological behavior. So this is always the story with these people at the time before they got baptized again as their new
redemption arc.
Yeah, before they got baptized again, now they watch it and they go, oh, really? Yeah. So these are the other problems. It's set in shockingly white New York.
Yeah.
So they're not happy with that.
No.
It's got dated references. So
it's literally dated.
Apply that to any show in the world.
I don't like that these references were from the 90s. You go, well, it was shot in the 90s.
Yeah, well, this is what they said. As some of the people have pointed out on social media, many of the show's convoluted storylines, they wouldn't even work in a world with cell phones. It's like, yeah, I think people understand when they're watching an older show that it's probably in that time. I mean, you remember a little show called, I can't remember what it was called. What was the kid? Stranger Things?
Yeah.
Set in the 90s. Mm-hmm. So did you write any articles saying that that has dated references?
Someone actually wrote that's the issue with Seinfeld is that it has that why people won't like it because it has dated references.
Well, I think it's your point that you made earlier that what they wanted to say is it's too white, but they needed a few more.
I do actually remember a scene where fucking Jerry's dad, remember he gets the job with Peterman and then he goes, I can get it from some Chinaman. And then Elaine's like, you can't say Chinaman.
Right.
So even then they were like, you can't say that.
Yeah.
So it's like pretty woke.
It's a little bit woke.
Kind of. It's like...
And then there was a couple more, but then the last one I'll say, they said, in real life, the stars have had some, and they write, difficult moments. So they're talking about when Jason Alexander did that set where he yelled the N-word.
Oh, right. Classic George.
George was out there yelling the N-word, right? But we were talking about that this weekend. Was the idea is like, Jason Alexander has been in a few things, but it is tough so in Trailer Park Boys, that's what, because I'm, Canadian and people like Trailer Park Boys and they were sort of weird chatting about that. But Corey and Trevor got such a raw deal that they eventually left the show, right? And it is to some degree, it is bullshit because when a show becomes iconic, it is very hard for people to do anything else. Every famous, a lot of these people have done little things here and there. Elaine's made a good transition. A lot of times they'll have a second sitcom that kind of pops off. But it's hard for them to transition to movie stars. So it's like Corey and Trevor are Corey and Trevor forever in terms of Canadian lore and television, right?
Yeah.
But they don't make any money. So at least Jason Alexander, it's like, yeah, he pops off on SVU here and there. He plays a bad guy.
But he does that just to get out of the house.
He's a working actor, all that stuff. But he's a gazillionaire.
Yeah. He's like, he just does that because he wants to.
So it is interesting.
Does
But
Broadway.
It's so funny when these people kind of, they watch these. There's like, when they watch these shows, they just have to have a problem with it, right?
I mean, if they don't, then what's the article?
Well, but this is the thing, though, because they're saying people want this new thing, and it kind of fucks with their thing, because they're saying what people want is to watch people with progressive values, and they want to watch people doing the right things, and they want to watch, women doing men's roles, and they want gay people, and this is what they want to watch. And then they put Seinfeld on it, and just fucking obliterates.
Yeah. I mean... literally fucking Curb is just Seinfeld.
It's Seinfeld, yeah.
It's all that stuff, just continued and with swearing because it was on fucking HBO.
And people love it.
People love it. It's like one of the most popular shows in the world.
Yeah. And the last thing we'll go through is this article we've been meaning to get to for a couple weeks, but it's just funny because this mom is in Slate where the moms write in their grievances.
Yeah.
The mom wrote in and she goes, "My teen is faking a disability on TikTok." Which, so I don't know what the disability is, but maybe they're pretending to be a woman.
Zing!
No, this is what my son's pretending to be a mentally retarded. What's he doing? He's pretending that he's a Joe Biden supporter. That's how you get a fucking applause break in Florida.
Totally. Pretending he's pro-vax.
He says he's retarded. But my friend's retarded. I walked in, I see him in a Joe Biden shirt. Yeah, that's so funny. But so my 14-year-old son is pretty active on Twitter. I monitor his activity fairly routinely. I've discovered something else disconcerting. He's faking a major, extremely stigmatized disability. My son is fairly neurotypical. So they use that. You know how they have cis to describe?
Yeah.
So neurotypical means not retarded.
Not autistic, not retarded.
Yeah, but like
just none of the stuff.
But the fact that they have words for people that actually Norm Macdonald had a clip that went viral recently. They go, "Oh, it's you heard the term cisgendered. It's a way for them to marginalize normal people." But you probably. So he goes, "My son's fairly he suffers from anxiety and depression, as many teens do." So the mom knows
That's something.
but the mom knows the lingo, which sort of leads you some insight into what's going on here. He's like, he's not a victim enough, and his mom's out there being like, everything should be about the victims, right? And his mom, he comes in, he says, "I'm anxiety, depressed." She goes, "Well, that's fairly typical." He goes, I'm gonna have to up it a little bit, right? He's looking for those victim points from mom.
I mean, literally,
they're like, "I just wanted you to love me, mom."
Yeah, he's fucking sees all. He has eyes. He's not dumb. He sees all the people who are like playing the fucking victim card, getting their life
Pats on the back.
Their life's easier. They get all these perks. And he goes, "I want that."
That's it.
Yeah,
you see this, and it's like, well, when you do a world where everything is how we're patting you on the back for being a victim, and then someone's pretending to be a victim, you go, why the fuck would that be happening?
Yeah. Like, I have to write into this website because I have no idea what's going on here.
Yeah. Well, you know exactly what's going on here. There's a world and they go, well, why is he doing that? Because it's working better than when he just pretends to be his normal self.
Yeah, he got fucking 50 views when he was not that. And then he did one thing where it was probably like on the margin of whether there was something going on.
He went Rick Rowley.
Our boy Rick Rowley.
Our boy Rick Rowley did do this.
Yeah, where he straight up was
he was just talking like a Canadian. And then he had like one joke about like, I'm kind of retarded, right? And it was like got a big pop. And then by the next time he's on stage, Rick Rowley's like, I don't even know where I fucking am.
I remember he was doing this when he was starting comedy. Really funny guy. He's really
he's our buddy.
He's our buddy. But so he was talking on stage. And he would like go and I remember like seeing him do set after set and like the first bit was like a little slow and he was so weird. And I just told him, I go, yo, just like after like, I don't know, 15 seconds, just when you feel like it's just like the tension's building up a bit, just go, just so you know, I'm not retarded, right? And he did it and it fucking smashed. And it kept smashing so hard where he started to feel bad about doing it.
When he
didn't like it. It was like one of those things where he goes like, oh, I don't even like this.
He broke the tension of everyone thinking that.
Yeah, but he goes, just so you know, I'm not retarded, and like just erupt, and then he's just stopped doing it because he's.
But then he leaned
made him
hard
feel
into being
dirty.
retarded.
But then all the fucking
he's literally on thing. He squints his eyes.
He goes, oh, fuck, vod. But it's so funny. But the thing is, I think he started to see like all the diversity and all the stuff, like all the intersectionality.
He goes, that could be my thing.
And he goes, oh, like, you know what I don't see in Canadian entertainment? Literally mentally retarded people in comedy. They need one of those. He goes, that's a box that gets checked. So then I remember one time having a conversation with him where he's trying to tell me that he was disabled. He started
to believe in his own
I don't know if it's
character.
like the term Munchausen by proxy. I don't think that's technically the right thing, but it was like he started believing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he goes, yeah, I'm a bit. And I go, Rick, no, you're not. He goes,
I remember when this was
I remember he goes, yeah, but like, maybe I should get some because they need, and I'm like, you're not fucking mentally, like you have 2 university degrees.
He has a university degree.
I go, you're not retarded, Rick.
He started believing that he was retarded.
That was the best. I go, you're not. He goes,
Yeah, you have 2 university degrees. You're not retarded.
And you know, he was like, back to the drawing board. If you like hockey, he makes a fantastic hockey.
Oh yeah, follow him. He's fucking hilarious. Just Rick Rowley, right?
Rick Rowley 3, I believe.
Rick Rowley 3. He goes, he's posting things like, if you do X, you probably have Y, and also sharing videos of himself during certain actions and characteristics of the folks with this disability. I know beyond a doubt he does not have this disability. By the way,
First off, you got to tell us what the disability
they're
is.
not. She doesn't tell
That's
us.
fucking
I know.
bullshit.
Everything's with disability.
Because if it ends up being like autism, where you go like,
it's not autism because she has that a bit. It's going to be like fibromyalgia. That's the thing, though.
He's got fibro.
She doesn't want to tell us what the disability is, but she goes, I've overheard him talking about his friends before about disability TikTok, and makes me wonder whether he's found some home in the corner of the internet. Wonder no longer. He has. And that he's pretending he has this disability to make himself feel more valid, welcome, or even seen. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, people are doing that.
What do I say? How do I affirm him that while decidingly not affirming his choices to a fake disability is serious? This is what you tell him. You tell him that, you know what? I know that I've been telling you that there's nothing more important than you being all these things. That's not actually true. And more importantly, this is going to end bad for you.
Yeah.
When you get caught doing this, it's not going to end well.
No.
So it's going to be a bit of an Elizabeth Warren situation.
For sure. Even though that worked out really well for her, but that's it's neither here nor there.
And then you should stop playing a victim the highest point you can be in a society.
Yeah. I want to know what the disability is, though.
She doesn't say.
Name names.
The disability is, maybe overweightness. Did you
Puts
see,
on a fat suit? Like
you sent me that
full of
thing,
prosthetics?
You sent me that thing recently of the Big Short guy.
Oh, I was saying, yeah, Michael Burry tweeted it today, what I was kind of saying last week.
Which is
with
what?
the shrinkflation thing, how the inflation is going to make people skinnier.
Oh, that's why you were sending. I didn't make the connection when you sent it to me.
Oh, so I sent it.
I thought you were just saying he's being wild on Twitter.
Well, he is kind of. He posts a lot of crazy shit. He's calling for all these crashes, but he basically posted today the Big Short guy affirming what I was saying last week. My crazy theory, which is that he's like, we need some 70s style inflation, and that inflation is going to make people skinnier.
Yeah.
Because they're going to eat less.
Well, he posted the weight of people.
Yeah.
And it's like a line that's not going up that high. And then all of a sudden
it's
it
like
goes
a parabola.
Boom.
Yeah.
And it just hits around 1990 and it just goes up like crazy. Yeah, it's like a parabola.
Yeah.
Holy shit though. So people are ballooned.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everyone knows people are getting fatter, but isn't it crazy that, I mean, it's like so obvious kind of to some degree, but to look at, there's a crisis and that crisis is, and I don't think it's causation, but it's correlating with people promoting being fat at a time when like this is literally a real problem.
Well, I don't think that's what started it.
No, I don't think that's what started it.
No.
I don't even think that's necessarily which is making it stay. I just think it's funny that you have like a real health crisis.
Yeah, a real piece of a data point.
And the general consensus right now is how great it is.
Yeah. You go, it's like if that was a chart of the stock market, we'd be killing it. And you go, it's like, it's like that's usually you see charts like that. That's a good thing.
It's like in their opinion, it's like awesome and should be celebrated. And you're just like, this is a scary graph.
Yeah.
For health.
Especially when you overlay it on top of like fucking early death, and it'll be like the opposite, probably.
The opposite.
Yeah.
Anyway, fuck. All right. Another good week of hanging with the dogs. Oh, yeah. Hope to see some of the fucking Patreon boys coming out to the shows and shit that are coming up. It's always fucking sick to talk to the Patreon dudes and stuff like that. And I always stay after and hang out with everyone.
You'll never hear me saying this in public, but we like talking to you a little better than the non-Patreon people. Just a little bit better. But you'll never hear us saying that in public.
Well, you know what? There is some degree. I'll tell you this. When you talk to someone that's like a fan, they kind of come in or whatever, there is something a little more comforting that they probably know all your stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
So to be honest, there is like, you're talking to someone that kind of like They just
was
the dynamic. They know the dynamic.
There
of how
was
you talk
someone
to
I was
people.
talking to in Minneapolis.
It does feel like someone
who
because they know the
straight
stuff.
up. I was like, we were talking. I was like pretty fucking drunk, and I was talking to him, and then I started saying something, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and he's just like, "Oh yeah, everything I say, you just know."
That's what I used to always say with Tom Green or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
at first it's like a thing, but on the same time, the other way, when someone knows all this stuff about you and it's like, it does feel like you kind of have, you don't need to preface your beginning parts. They already know. So you can actually just talk about things.
Yeah, totally.
You don't have to preface your, like world point. Your like, your-
No, this was like specifically things just about my life, and he was
Yeah.
like, that I just talked about. He goes, "Yeah, or like that," and I go, "Oh yeah, you know."
yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, you know that.
It's like it's like at a party.
I was
where you-
blowing this dude. They're like, yeah, because
Yeah,
you already know.
right. Yeah. Anyways, you want me to suck your dick? Or- It's a higher tier on the Patreon, but if I just get you to sign up in front of me there, then we can take care
That
of this.
internet crash was wild, eh? Kind of
Facebook
fucked my
thing?
release of my Instagram.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that I was like, that
I might
sucked.
just release it again. But
Yeah, why
it did
not?
killed on YouTube, so I don't really give that much of a shit about Instagram. But
Yeah. Yeah, that was interesting just because they had the whistleblower and then the next day.
well, some people are kind of positing that some of it is that like,
Internal.
well, this whistleblower is just a straight up like activist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's
no, I
want
saw
to
that.
get-
But I'm saying I think some people are like, there's other activists and they kind of deleted all this code. Whereas Facebook's like, oh, we just made some error. It's just a
Yeah.
coincidence.
You know what? Let's do a deep dive on that a bit
Yeah.
next week.
I don't think it'll ever come out, to be honest, because Facebook has no real reason to
No, but I've been studying a bit on that
Yeah.
stuff, and I think there's more to
Okay.
say. Let's get into that Facebook thing a little next week.
Okay, cool.
All right. This has been the Poisecast Patreon. Peace.
Bye.
But we